Lesson 4.4c, solve inequalities by multiplication and division. So we're going to start off with doing one-step inequalities. Then we're going to move to two-step. They're similar to one- and two-step equations. But we need to point out something that's very important that we talked about. Or maybe we have not talked about it in here, so let me see if I can highlight the part that's important. In the box it says, when you multiply or divide each side of an inequality by a positive number, the inequality remains true. So if you multiply by a positive number, no big deal. It's fine. However, this is really, really important, and hopefully you've already got this written down. When you multiply or divide each side by a negative number, the direction of the inequality must be reversed for it to remain true. So what I want you to do is I want you to just watch this. I don't necessarily want you to write this down because I don't want you to sit there and write and then not listen to me. This is why that thing that I highlighted is true. If I write that 2 is less than 3, I hope everybody in here says, yeah, 2 is less than 3. True? So what if I took both sides of that inequality times -4? You know how all of these solving equation stuff that we've been doing, whatever you do to one side of it, you do to the other side, right? Okay, well, let's multiply both sides by -4 and let's see what happens. On the left, -4 times 2 is -8. On the right, 3 times -4 is -12. Now, if I leave my inequality the same, we're saying that -8 is less than -12. Is that true?
No.
Look at the number line. No. And it's because the negative side of the number line is in reverse, isn't it? That is why what is highlighted here is very important. If you're going to multiply or divide by a negative, you must turn that inequality around. So if I look at this first example that they have right here, t over -6 is less than or equal to -4. Well, that is a division right there, so you solve it by multiplying both sides by -6. But since we're multiplying by a negative, this inequality, you see how it switches around? It has to become greater than or equal to. So if you're going to multiply or divide by a negative, you have to flip around that inequality. Okay, so I'm going to go down towards the examples at the bottom that hopefully you have some of them written down. If not, hopefully you'll get there soon. Let's look at some more simple one. Let's hope that this one's more simple. This first example, 3a is greater than 12. I want a alone. It's 3 times a. What will undo times? Everybody. Divide. So you're going to show dividing by 3. That's what you would do for your work. And 3 divided by 3 would wipe away. And a would be greater than 12 divided by 3 is 4. A is greater than 4. We didn't have to switch anything. We didn't do anything. We just had to write it down. We had to divide. If it's greater than 4, is it open or closed? Open, and it's shaded right. Shaded right. Okay, now here's what I'm going to tell you about this. Here's what I'm going to tell you about this. Number 2 is probably a little more confusing even than it looks. So here's what we're going to do. Do you see how R is on the right? Yeah. And in an inequality, we want R on the left? Yeah. Why don't we move it over there right now? Would everybody be okay with that? Let's just move it over there right now and then do the problem, because I think this part will be less confusing if we do it that way. So I'm going to take that problem and I'm going to flip-flop these two things. So that means r over negative 2 and 6. And when I do that, I also have to turn around this. I can't just reverse it. And do you see how it's pointing at the r over the negative 2? It was a greater than or equal to. Well, now we're going to make it less than or equal to. So I brought my r over. I think you should do that on these one-step ones, okay? I think you need to do that on these one-step ones. So I've got the r on the left. Now it's r divided by negative 2. So that means I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 2. And the minute I say multiply by negative, I should remember to turn that thing around. It now became a greater than or equal to. When you multiply by a negative, you turn it around. So the negative 2 cancels. R is greater than or equal to negative 12. It's crazy that that thing had to be turned around. We had to bring r to the left. That's why we switched it around in the first place. We had to switch it around because we need to have r to the left. And then when we multiply by a negative, that switches it around again. So on this one, is it an open or closed circle?
Closed.
Closed, shaded, right. Okay, let me do just a simple problem down here. Let's do this. Write this problem down. Negative 4x is greater than 16. Negative 4x is greater than 16. It's negative 4 times x. What do I do to do times? Divide. We're going to divide both sides by negative 4 and divide by negative. The minute you think that or say that, divide by negative, you've got to flip that around. The negative 4 divided by negative 4 is gone, and x is less than negative 4. Anytime you multiply or divide by a negative, you got to flip it around. Now I want to show you one more before we go do some two steps. I want you to write this one down. 2x less than or equal to negative 10. 2x less than or equal to negative 10. I want x alone. What's keeping x from being alone? The 2. It's 2 times x. So we're going to divide by 2. I just said divide by 2, right? I didn't say divide by anything negative, did I? So x is less than or equal to negative 5. Now, just because there was a negative in the problem didn't automatically mean I had to flip it around. It's what I multiplied or divided with, and that was just a 2. That's just like a regular problem. Just so happens it's got a negative answer. Okay, we are going to look at, first of all, let's look at number 5. Negative h over 5 minus 6 is less than negative 10. So we did two-step equations like this. The variables on the left. That means I need to get all the numbers to the right. So the first thing I'm going to get rid of is the minus 6. How do you get rid of a minus 6?
Adding.
Yep, so let's add 6. Now I'm going to bring down negative h over 5 is less than, if I'm in the whole 10 and I gain 6, I'm going to be at negative 4. And now, let me put that down where it belongs. I want to get h alone. I'm going to multiply by, but see, it's a negative over there, so I should multiply by
5.
-5. Because negative times negative will make that positive. I just said multiply by negative. So the minute I think that or say that, I need to flip around. So greater than. The -5 and -5 go away. H is greater than 20. Okay, I'm going to go back up to number 4. Number 4, I'm going to get rid of this and mark this out a minute so that we can write over. Okay. It is 13 greater than -2/3 y minus 3. So let's go ahead and solve it. Since there's a bunch of stuff there, we're going to go ahead and solve it. I need y alone, so I'm going to add 3. And 16 is greater than -2/3 y. How do you get rid of that fraction that's in front? I multiply by the, what's it called? Oh, Allison, reciprocal. So we're going to multiply both sides by -3/2. Now, since I'm multiplying by negative, what do I got to do? I just said it. Multiply by negative. Flip it. So the 3/2 and the 2/3 go away. My y is on the right, which we don't want. I'm going to put that 16 over 1. It's a negative times a positive. Lots of things to think about in there.
Yes.
Negative. The 2 and the 16 become a 1 and an 8. Be -24. Now, can I leave my answer like that?
No.
No. My y's on the right, and it's an inequality.
Flip it.
Flip it. So y greater than -24. So some of those, not only do you have to flip it around to bring your letter to the left, but you also got to flip it around because you're multiplying or dividing by a negative.